So in this demonstration, what we did is we tried to convey to the text boxes, that is, please take the value from property called as name and please take the value from property called as age. And in the code behind, what we conveyed was that text box 1, please collect the data from employee 1. Text box 2, please collect the data from employee 1. Now instead of we specifying this multiple number of times, imagine there are like hundreds of text boxes like this. Will we end up in specifying hundreds of statements like this? Instead of that, what is it that people or developers prefer is, you know, text box name, you know, text box age, or for that matter all other controls are part of window, or if every control is going to be there in a stack panel, then maybe stack panel itself. So what we normally do then is, considering that all your controls are going to be part of window 1, so you may specify, which is kind of, you can say, higher level container. So window 1 dot data context, or instead of that, what you can say is this represents anyway the current window. So this dot data context is equal to, you may specify emp1. So instead of we telling to every control, go get all your data source properties or data source required properties from emp1 or emp2 or empn, if the common source exists, we are just going to go and specify window 1 is going to have a source of data that is going to be emp1. But I did not specify this to text boxes, I specified this to the window. So default in WPF, what happens is, if the text box doesn't find, since I specified text box, please collect the data from name, I have not specified any data context neither here nor in the code behind. So ultimately, then the text box is going to go and look for data source with itself first, if not stack, if not window. And once it finds it with respect to window 1, which is specified in the code behind, you will find out it will ask a quick question to employee 1, that is, do you hold a property which is called as name? If it holds a property called as name, then it takes the value from it and it simply assigns it to the UI. So if I run this now, you will notice writing multiple number of statements of dot data context is absolutely not required. So here what happens is, now we have two text boxes representing Mahesh and 40, which is coming from emp1. So you don't need to write down multiple number of statements. A single statement like this is going to go and help you. Now still, some of you may have a question like, what if second text box, I really wish to have another object, so as a source. So let's say there is a emp2. I'm simply going to copy this and paste it here. And let's say there is an employee number 2 that we have, and who is going to have a name like, let's say, Nilesh, and who's going to have an age, let's say, like 20. So now what happens is, imagine this dot data context made it clear to every text box or every other property that is over here, which is under binding, that is, go get the name, go get the age from some where that it can find. So no text box has it, no stack panel knows it, and then window since knows it, so it by default takes it from emp1. But what will happen if I really want some text box like text box age to ultimately collect the data from something like emp2? So I may go and specify here that this guy should collect the data from text box 2. So I'll specify here emp2 and semicolon. Now let's see what happens. If I run this, you will find out txt name will collect the data from something called emp1, and the age box is going to collect the data from text box 2. emp2. The reason behind that, once the text box finds the data with its own data context or property with its property called as age with its own data context object, it need not go and find anything with respect to stack or anything with respect to window. So always the need is tried, always WPF tries to satisfy the need at the local level. So if at all binding is there and data context is there with respect to text box, there is no point in escalating a call to stack or escalating call to window. However, if any of the control that we have doesn't know from where to get it, neither it has it specified, then it will definitely go to the other, you can say, upper level controls like container. Now why did I mention here window? I could have specified here stack panel as well. So suppose if I go for stack panel and if I put here STK as the name of the stack panel, one can very well go and put up here, instead of this dot data context, one can specify something called as STK as well, dot data context. But then why did not I do it? So ultimately there is going to be one layout control by default. But then instead of we relying on a data container like stack panel, we know every other control is going to be part of the window itself, the current window for the current UI. So it's always better to escalate a call to the window level and collect the data. But nearest level is the better level. So at any moment, if you feel like some common object is going to be acting as a data source for your all controls, it's very better to go for window level specification of data context.